It's no question about it. The New Orleans Saints need to make a move for a wide receiver. My name is Trizzy Trace Girouard. Thank you so much for tuning into today's video here on Saints Now by Chat Sports. Let's take a look at the wide receiver room for the black and gold. As we know, Chris Olave, Rashid, Shaheed, those two players are very, very exciting. But Bub Means most recently has been placed on IR. This wide receiver room has a ton of speed. There's a lot of athleticism in this group, but there is a lack of size. There is a lack of quality depth. And in my opinion, New Orleans needs to either sign or trade for a wide receiver. So today we're going to go through a plethora of wide receiver targets that New Orleans could potentially sign or trade or maybe wait a little bit. Roster cutdowns are going to happen here pretty soon. So we're going to just dive into all of the options available for the black and gold right now. And before we get started, I want to hear from you. Name a wide receiver that you believe the New Orleans Saints should add. It can be a free agent. It can be a trade. It could be whatever. I want to hear from you in the comments. Like we mentioned, we're going to dive into a list of players that the New Orleans Saints could potentially bring in to help provide depth, help bring some more firepower, and ultimately help this wide receiver group try to stay alive and hopefully not get decimated by injuries. So this is a wide receiver needy team, no question about it. Let's take a quick look at what the New Orleans Saints are currently looking at. They have about $20.6 million in cap space to spend right now, so it's not like they can't add anybody. They have money to spend, and they could bring in some pretty good football players, if you ask me. The New Orleans Saints notably did not add a wide receiver in the 2025 NFL Draft. In my opinion, that was one of the biggest needs for the black and gold. However, they opted to not add a wide receiver in the draft. They brought back Brandin Cooks in free agency. They signed Metchie Dixon in as a UDFA, Chris Tyree, who's no longer on the roster as well. But ultimately, the wide receiver room is lacking size. Bub Means was the biggest wide receiver on the roster in terms of height and weight. And now that he is injured and he is out for the season, the Saints already had a need, but it became a lot more prevalent. Chris Olave, 6 foot, 187 pounds. He's trying to play a little bit bigger. I believe at like 190, actually. Rashid Shaheed, he's also put on some weight. He's gained some muscle. So, maybe he can have a big role for the New Orleans Saints. I do expect that to happen. But the Saints have been exploring options in free agency. Recently, they hosted wide receiver Justin Ross, the two-time Super Bowl champion and Clemson legend, on a visit and a workout, I should say. They recently worked him out at practice. He's 6'4", 210 pounds. I do believe he's a player that maybe could find a spot on the roster, but the size alone, that is something that's intriguing to me, and it's something that for a wide receiver needy team like the Saints, you really shouldn't be beggars can't be choosers. You really shouldn't be too picky in terms of players that are available, and I think that this is certainly an option. Other free agents available, these are the only players in free agency that I was able to find above 6 foot. Obviously, Treylon Burks is out there as well. However, he's dealing with an injury, so we're not really going to hone in on him. Amari Cooper, Gabe Davis, Tyler Boyd, those are three names that have been very popular amongst Saints fans. Gabe Davis has visited with the black and gold. Amari Cooper, we've talked about him a lot on this channel. But Allen Robinson, I'm all right. Juwan Winfrey, who? Lil Jordan Humphrey, former Saints legend, 6'4", 225. Size is interesting. Maybe he could be an option, but ultimately, it's just not bringing a lot of juice to the offense. It is notable, though, A.T. Perry, former Saints legend, guy who got absolutely screwed over by Dennis Allen. He cut him. Terrible, stupid decision. Saints needed a big body wide receiver. You had a big body wide receiver who was very, very good, very, very productive, extremely electric, very explosive. So you cut him. That makes no sense. A.T. Perry then moves to the Denver Broncos with Sean Payton, and he has been missing some time throughout the summer due to injury or whatever, and now he has passed his physical, so he is now available to play some football. And I'll say this, I'm not going to advocate to go trade for A.T. Perry, but you do have the opportunity to right your wrongs. You could bring A.T. Perry back if he's a guy who ends up on the Broncos practice squad. Maybe you go and sign him if he ends up on the practice squad in Cleveland. Maybe he's a player who gets cut and you can just grab him off of waivers. In my personal opinion, if A.T. Perry becomes available and if he's an option, Saints should keep their eyes on him. He was so damn good, over 20 yards per catch. It feels like anytime the ball was headed his direction, he was making a play. You can call out this play that's on screen right here. You can call out the crazy catch he had against the Rams. You can call out the crazy catch he had from Jameis Winston from all the way on this side of the field to that backside of the corner against Byron Murphy and the Vikings. I mean, this guy was a walking highlight reel. Up next, we talked a lot about free agents. We talked a lot about players who could potentially become available, but we're going to hone in on guys that the Saints could potentially trade for, because that is something New Orleans could opt to do. And I will tell you right now, if New Orleans does make a move for a wide receiver, whether it's sign, trade, cut, anything, we are going to have you covered. So be sure to subscribe to Saints Now by Chat Sports. Plus, if there's any roster updates, injury news, anything like that, we're going to have you notified here on the channel. And we go live multiple times a week. Trust me, you do not want to miss out on the awesome content we have going on here on YouTube. So subscribe for free today. Here's some wide receiver targets that you could potentially explore. Terry McLaurin, Romeo Doubs, John Metchie, Tyreek Hill, Quentin Johnston. These are all players who've had some sort of trade rumors around them. Terry McLaurin, I want to first start off with him. We've discussed this idea, but to be totally honest, he's just going to cost too much for a multitude of reasons. One, I feel like trading for this player, the Washington Commanders are going to ask for quite a bit in return. That's the first part of this. Second, it's going to cost a lot of money. And the New Orleans Saints are a team that's in the process of getting out of cap hell, and they are doing a good job of that. Why enter it again if he's, going to need a bunch of money? Not to mention, you're going to have to pay Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed next offseason. So, in my opinion, I just don't think that Terry McLaurin would make much sense from a financial standpoint, from a compensation standpoint in a trade. And, of course, it would be fun to have him on the New Orleans Saints, but it just doesn't feel realistic to me. Plus, I think he's going to end up sticking around in Washington. Tyreek Hill, is a fun player. That is something that we can all acknowledge. He is fast. He is super explosive. He is dynamic. He is fun. He's experienced. He is a successful football player. He's been to the highest of highs, and he knows how to win. But I don't think that he fits what the New Orleans Saints need. You have a fast veteran in Brandin Cooks. I just don't think you need to trade for Tyreek Hill. Of course, just like Terry McLaurin, it would be fun. I just don't think it makes a lot of sense. Maybe go get him on your Madden roster, and it could, if you really have an itch for Terry McLaurin or Tyreek Hill. But in terms of real life, those two players don't make sense. But I will hone in on three guys who do make sense. Really quickly, I got to tell you guys about this sale going on. Chatsports.com/Saints Rewind. I got the link in the comments and description of this video. This badass throwback sweater, Nike, so fresh. It was $55. I got a link. You can get it for $28. Click it in the comments and description of this video. I made it available for you, Saints fans. So go check it out, explore the website, see if there's any other gear you want to get. But I'm telling you right now, this right here is absolutely fresh, and you can get it on sale with our link down below. Romeo Doubs. He is the first wide receiver that the New Orleans Saints, in my opinion, should explore trading for. He's become the odd man out in Green Bay. He's in the last year of his rookie contract, 6'2", 204 pounds. Fairly productive for the Green Bay Packers last season. 601 yards, over 13 yards per catch, 4 touchdowns. He fits the size that the New Orleans Saints need. He fits the traits of having some experience. And on top of that, he's a player that I don't think is going to cost too much in terms of the trade compensation. So maybe he's a player that the New Orleans Saints could potentially explore. But it is worth noting he's dealing with a little bit of an injury. A couple of days ago, Romeo Doubs at practice, he went down. Small collision with Evan Williams on a deep incompletion. Doubs hit the ground very, very slow to get up. Appears to be his lower back. So I'll say with Romeo Doubs, proceed with caution. If he's healthy, sure, let's have a talk about this. But if he's not, I think you should explore different options. One being John Metchie. One of these guys I think should make a lot of sense. John Metchie might make the most. Kellen Moore. We all know that he is very fond of players who've dealt with adversity. John Metchie has one of the coolest stories in all of football. Diagnosed with leukemia, and then returns to action in 2023. He is a part of a really loaded wide receiver room in Houston. They've added a lot of players this offseason. They drafted a couple. They have Nico Collins. They have some talent in Houston for C.J. Stroud, making John Metchie a little bit expendable. Last year of his rookie contract, he's only 6 foot, 195 pounds, but look, this is a player, if you give him an opportunity, I do think that maybe he could be a guy who could really make an impact in the Saints offense. Again, beggars can't be choosers. You need wide receiver talent. You need wide receiver depth. John Metchie might be a solid option. So my trade idea for John Metchie, super simple. 2026 6th-round pick, we get the player. Not going to ask for too much. I don't think that the Texans are going to require too much. I do think that they would be very willing to give John Metchie the opportunity to go and make money elsewhere and have an impact elsewhere because he is so buried in Houston. And not to mention, the New Orleans Saints don't have a 7th-round pick, so the 6th-round pick might be a fair compensation if you ask me. Now, what would you do? Trade or pass? Get down in the comments section. John Metchie for a 6th-round pick. What would you do? And if you're a Texans fan, feel free to share your thoughts as well. I want to hear from all different opinions. Quentin Johnston, this is a really interesting player here because at TCU, he was really, really good. Helped them go on that CFP run. He was very, very productive. 6'2", 208 pounds. I mean, this is a really, really special player, but he's got bricks for hands at times. When it comes to Quentin Johnston and his production this past season, he was much, much better for the Chargers than he was in his rookie campaign. He went from 38 catches to 55 catches, 431 yards to 711, 11.3 yards per catch to almost 13, 2 touchdowns to 8. So for Quentin Johnston, maybe having a change of scenery could really help this guy live up to that first-round hype. He was drafted 21st overall by the Los Angeles Chargers. He hasn't been super consistent and super effective for them. So I do believe that maybe he's a player they could be interested in moving off of. Another simple trade. Let's just go player for pick. 2026 4th-round pick for Quentin Johnston. Maybe it's a little rich, but I do have to consider the fact that he has another year under contract. So you will have him for some time. Also, the Chargers use a 1st-round pick on him. Also, he's still young and can develop. So maybe putting him in a very, very strong wide receiver room with Keith Williams being the wide receiver coach, that could be beneficial for Quentin Johnston. I do think that maybe is something to explore. Final thoughts, I'll just say this. General statement. I didn't say it at the beginning because I want to say it at the end. Let's just all say a prayer. Say a prayer to the football gods. Let's just pray that Chris Olave, Rashid, Shaheed, Brandin Cooks, all these guys can stay healthy. That way we don't have to absolutely rely on the UDFAs and the random guys that you're picking up off the couch in Week 14. Pray that these wide receivers can stay healthy because if they don't, this season is going to be very, very long. If they do stay healthy, I do think that there will be some really, really exciting moments in this season. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. We gave you guys a lot of wide receiver targets, and I want to hear from you. Which one was your favorite? Did we not mention one? Did we forget about a name that you're really interested in? Get in the comment section. Be sure to subscribe to Saints Now by Chat Sports. Like this video, and y'all stay golden. We'll see you next time.